from beautiful downtown Bogart, Georgia. It's our the lucky seventh episode of the Leaksmith podcast. And we've had 6 podcasts to kind of get our feelings, get our feet wet here. You can see we're in our new palatial studio in Bogart. Kudos to the team that put this together. I guess we got acoustics, we got video, we got the works. Hopefully you're hearing this over some really great bumper music. My name is Tommy. I'm the founder of Accent Roofing, a.k.a. Leaksmith. And I'm joined by the president of the company, El Presidente, the guy who really is the mover and the shaker, Phillip. And for the next 30 minutes or so, we are expanding our reach. We have decided that, what was the math on how many people on earth are interested in roofing?
Well, I mean, it's basically you got, when a person's about to get their, or when somebody is in need of roofing, they're looking at their roof two weeks before they get it done, and they're basically appreciating it for about 2 weeks after. So roofing is only on people's general radar for about 4 weeks every 30 years.
So the probability is kind of like Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance that somebody's looking for a roof.
But but them being a recurring audience that can keep coming back, it's it's not as likely. So.
So we need to expand our footprint a little bit. And so what we've decided, we've done some research, we've decided to expand just slightly and start talking about the entire world.
Yep.
Okay, so anything that's going on in the world, we may be talking about it here. Don't worry. If you actually tuned in for roofing, we have a lot of younger roofers, a lot of roofers that are kind of in a steady state or kind of stalled out that have been tuning in, have been commenting. We'll have something for you. We'll have something of general interest to any.
There's always going to be some roofing.
Yeah, there'll be some roofing because that's we started out the whole roof and nothing but the roof was once upon a time our slogan until we went with the much better one, which is we're on top of it. But it took a new generation to come up with that one. So here we are. But we're going to get to roofing here in a little bit. But one of the staples that we're sticking with the Leaksmith podcast is we like to start out the show with some uncommon common knowledge. So, Phillip, I'd like you to field this question. We'll see if you know it. Okay, how many seconds in a minute?
60.
How many minutes in an hour?
60.
How many hours in a day?
24.
How many hours in a week? How many weeks in a year?
52.
And how many years in a well-lived life?
75, 85.
Okay, so of all those questions, those quantities of time, most people know the first 3 and the last 2, but that hinge point, how many hours are there in a week?
168.
There's the uncommon common knowledge. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you just break that down, you got 168 hours in a week. If you sleep 8 hours a day, that's 56 hours. If you work a 50-hour work shift, that's leaves you with 62 hours of freedom or time to fill.
That's a lot.
Which is basically, it's almost 8-hour shifts.
How about we lop off 10 hours for eating and 7 hours for coffee? So now you got 45 hours.
Yeah, you got 45. So that's a lot of time to fill. And what you're going to do with that time to make it count, that's pretty important. So
Sure is.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Yeah, definitely something to think about. Also, that's possibly a good segue into our main topic of the day, which is something that we've come to call Slotivation. This is a Accent Roofing. Well, this is a Tommy original. And
we own the website and we own the trademark on Slotivation.
And this is basically a concept that we've used to, for the last 30 years to get to where we are. And we definitely have not arrived, but we are on our way.
We've left the station.
We've left the station, and using Slotivation has been crucial to that. And basically, just like it sounds, it's a combination of slow and motivation. And really, basically where that comes from is if you depend on motivation alone, you're really
all fired up.
You're going to get all fired up.
Yeah.
You can ride a motivational wave, but those waves come and go.
I'm a sucker for motivation.
Yeah. So what happens in between those waves is crucial, and a lot of people just without motivation they spin their wheels or go backwards. Slotivation is basically the idea or concept of helping you to keep moving in the right direction even when you're not motivated.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. So, motivation, like I say, we're all leaking, and I'm a sucker for motivation. I love a good convention. I love a good speaker who gets fired up. I love to run through walls when I come out of a meeting. But
Sure.
you're leaking, and then on Tuesday or Wednesday, you're no longer motivated like you were. But what's wrong with a life that goes from that high to that high, and then takes that dip and then goes to that? What's wrong with just hopping from point to point to point? Why is Slotivation a better approach than
It's
occasional
consistency.
consistency?
It's consistency. Consistency over time, that leads to success. And ultimately, we've found basically you can break this down into 3 basic things that you need to do in order to stay slotivated. The first one is you got to do what fuels your fire. And what I mean by that is, that's spiritually. Family time, rest, prayer, church, walk in nature, whatever it is, that you have to keep. Like you said, you leak constantly once you get motivated, but you've got to fill that motivation back up, or just that general sense of well-being. So that's where that first step comes into play.
Just a random question: as an industry, do you think the motivation industry, the army of self-anointed motivational gurus, do they do a good job with aftercare? In other words, they have 3,000 people in a convention hall. They send them out the door all motivated. Do they do a good job of taking care of that motivation?
In my experience, no. You go and you get fired up. You might stay fired up for a week, but if you don't have that discipline to fall back on, that motivation just isn't going to get you to where you need to go, which kind of brings you to, even the second thing, which is mindset, which is staying solution focused. And even if you're having a bad day, you got to remember the trick, which is if you're having a bad day, the best way to get out of it is not think about yourself. Encourage somebody else. Mm-hmm. That gets your mind off yourself and gets you to the number 3, which is a big one. When motivation fades, fall back on discipline, your routine, and your system, and ultimately that's how you get that consistency. So you leave your whatever motivational speaker, and then you come back, and 7 days later you're not quite as pumped as you were. What's going to keep you moving in that direction? And that's where you've got to have a routine, and you got to have the disciplined things you do each day in order to keep that slotivation going.
So I heard somebody once, he didn't call it slotivation, but he used an old wood match, and he struck it. He says, notice how at the beginning it flames up. That's motivation.
Yeah.
And then he held it there until it almost burned his fingers. And he said, what you're looking at here is long-term motivation. And that's slotivation.
Sure.
After that big convention or that guest speaker comes through town, he strikes the match. The trick with slotivation is, how do you keep that thing burning? Okay. Would you consider yourself a practitioner of slotivation? Have you had personal success with this?
No, absolutely. I wouldn't even bring it up or talk about it if I hadn't. I've got my routine, and I follow it like clockwork, which, I got a morning routine, which is, how, like I just said, which is you got to keep that spiritual charge going. For me, there's certain things, journaling, reading, and praying, that helps me to do that. But without that basic, I'm not going to be able to, that's why I really rely on that day to day.
So you've already done some things. The real time of day here is about 11 o'clock in the morning. You've already done some things this morning to put fuel in there.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you also do things like, I got a brain training app I do every single day, and then I have a Spanish lesson I do every single day, and it's just part of that routine. I know that I'm going to do it every single day, whether I'm motivated or not. If I'm motivated, I might do 2 hours of Spanish, but at the very minimum, I'm going to do at least that one lesson, which is 30 minutes.
Okay, true confession. I'm on a Spanish training course.
Yeah.
It's called Pimsleur, and it keeps track of how you're doing. It's kind of like naughty boy, good boy, but it comes on, you turn it on, and it goes 9 days in a row. And I've been putting it off because when I go on there, it's going to say 0 days in a row, loser. So you're kind of you're a well-known kind of superstar of pursuing personal growth. And those words that you mentioned, I'm by nature not a very disciplined guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more of an effort maybe for me. But the words that you mentioned didn't sound like very much fun to me. So I'm going to put you on the spot and challenge you to help us make these a little more fun. It was discipline coupled with
a routine. I mean,
routine.
I'm running routine and discipline go hand in hand.
what two words could be less inspiring than discipline and routine? So how can
You
I change the way I look?
Well, you have to be focused on the end result,
Ah.
which is, if you focus on the end result rather than the momentary, lack of fun and discipline in a routine, then it's not quite as bad. And to be honest, once you get into a really good routine, you actually rely on it and you enjoy it. I mean, it's anybody that's ever worked out before or trained in sports.
You get addicted to it.
You go, and after you develop that habit, if you miss a day, you just feel totally
terrible,
off.
yeah.
And that's where, that's the point with any type of discipline or routine that you want to get into, I believe. And then again, like I said, with the motivational, waves, you can, do a little bit more, but you're always moving in that right direction. So, you go and you get fired up with a book or something, and then that wears off in 5 days, but you still have your routine there. You're still going to keep moving towards that goal that you set. So I'd say keeping your eye on the end result or the goal, it makes it not as boring or tedious as it sounds on the surface.
So getting down to brass tacks here, because I think about a year ago, you added sales management to your presidential slate.
Yeah.
And you have developed an entire system. And so I don't think I hear you say Slotivated much, but when I look at numbers and there's no weak links in that chain.
Sure.
Everybody on your team is producing.
Yeah.
And producing at a high level. And I see that they pretty much are producing every day. So
what we focus on are, and this is any good team, and I use a lot of sports analogies. It's just in general management.
That's why God invented sports.
Yeah.
So you could use sports for business analogies.
Yeah, they're definitely great for business analogies. And with the sales team, I just, I talk about the basics. Every good team or every championship team, no matter if they're in the NFL or Little League, they're going to spend time every single day or every practice going through the basics. I mean, every level of sports that I was ever in, you did that every single practice. You would practice handoffs as a running back. You would practice, getting the ball pitched to you. You do lineman practice hitting the sled. Those are the basics. And the same with any, with sales, actually. We've got basically our system broke down into basics that they have to do every single day, and we just focus on doing that. And when they follow that routine, the end results always speak for themselves. I had a guy last year, we have a train going by, which
we're near the train line.
We're
That's
near
cool.
the train line.
That gives it a little atmosphere.
It gives it a little flavor. Had a guy last month on the sales team. I guess my pen is
getting cues from our off-camera executive producer there.
Yeah.
You're in the doghouse.
So, had a guy last month. The previous month, he was our top salesman, which we call Top Gun.
Top Gun.
And a lot of times when you have a phenomenal month, you pretty much burn through whatever you've got in your pipeline. And so he started the month from scratch, and about a week in, he wasn't doing too hot. And we talked a little bit, and I said, just focus on the basics, keep working the system, and let's see where you land at the end of the month. He did exactly that. And we have something called the green, which is a certain number we want them to get to every month. He landed right in the green just by following that. And I called him and I said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "I followed the basics." And that's a good example of where that routine.
Okay.
So I don't say Slotivation with the sales team, although our new handbook does have a Slotivation page. But it's actually at the very end of the handbook. It's the last thing that we want to impart to them. But we focus on the basics.
I don't know that I've ever seen any kind of motivational guarantee actually kept or cashed in, but I think I'm not involved in sales day to day, but I kind of see your work and their work, it kind of comes across my ticker. But about a year ago, I think you put out an actual guarantee. You said, do this, 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 and if you do them, I guarantee this will be the results. And I've been watching to see if you have to make good on that guarantee. And sure enough, every single guy that's done those slotivational things has hit the mark.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's
really,
almost like, I mean, it's almost like a law, like gravity. You know, if you throw something up, it's coming down. It's slotivation. You know, that disciplined routine is pretty much the same. You follow a routine, you follow the basics, you do it consistently, and the end result is going to be, you know, hitting your goals and getting to where you want to go.
So you've had the benefit. You've had the benefit, I guess, of field testing this with a number of people. But what if I'm a person who's at home? I don't have a team. I don't have a manager. I want to come up with some slotivational guidelines that'll move me forward. Do you have any practical help for where a person could start with that? In other words, I want to. Okay, you're saying you guarantee discipline and motivation, or discipline and the other will do the trick. But how do I know that my standards are good enough?
I think a good easy way to do that is, you know, I've always been, and I probably inherited this from my mom. I'm
the discipline side of the marriage.
I make lists and set goals. And I'd say the easiest way to do it, if you don't have a team, you don't know where to start, think if you were motivated, what would you do on a day-to-day basis? What is that? What does that look like?
A great day.
A great day. What does a great day
look like? Yeah.
If you're motivated, you tone that down a little bit and you compile your routine out of that, or your day-to-day list. That's a great starting point right there.
Okay.
So if your list is, I'm going to make it to the gym today. I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock. A good way to start is setting a consistent time that you get up every single day. Just simple stuff like that. And that's, I mean, you can start as simple as going to bed at the same time every day and getting up at the same time every day. Those are just little things that you can do that help you to accomplish that slotivation mindset. And again, it's not just disciplined routine. You still get motivation throughout the whole process. And number two is that I mentioned before, which is where you get outside yourself and you encourage somebody else when you're having a bad day. That I use that trick all the time. Well, not that I'm having bad days all the time, but encouraging other people lifts you up.
Just get in a funk.
And it makes those motivational waves. There's less of a gap between those.
Yeah, it just occurred to me one other thing that I think that you could do is be on the lookout for people that seem to be very consistently up. You know, not over the moon, but just somebody that you can rely on their temperament. It's like, you know, your mother and I dance, and there are a couple people at dance that we can just count on for 9 years. Every time they come in the door, they are in a steady state at a pretty high level. And I'm going to shock the world, or at least the world that watches Leaksmith, by bringing in a little pop culture here. I saw the other day, there's no avoiding Taylor Swift, whether you want to see her or not.
I avoid her pretty good.
No, but she tracks you down. I mean, I'll be minding
She's everywhere.
I'll be minding my own business, and boom, here comes Taylor and Kelsey. But she referred to Kelsey as a human exclamation point. And I thought, man, wouldn't that feel good if somebody thought of you as a human exclamation point? And she said, he's just always up.
Yeah.
And his teammates say the same thing about him. So I would guess that, you know, Travis Kelsey is probably a master of slotivation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people practice it and don't even realize
it. Yeah. But you can't go for that home run all the time. That's the point. And then we beat ourselves up. We have that home run feeling when we walk out of the Dale Carnegie convention, but we can't sustain it. But slotivation is practical and real and available to everybody, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool beans. Well,
you came up with that terminology.
And it came right through the ceiling in a blue shaft of light. And I said, I better write that down.
Yeah. All
right. Well, you want to get on to some roofing?
So Grasshopper Corner.
It's time for Grasshopper Corner.
Yeah.
I want to kind of talk about who we're kind of focusing on here now. We promised a little bit of roofing. If you're new in the roofing business, I guess really any contracting business, any home services business, if you're relatively new, or if you're just kind of in a steady state, if you're a contractor who kind of likes the idea of growth or likes the idea of expansion, or maybe you just feel like you're at a stoplight and you go, you know, as long as I've been doing this, I feel like I should be more successful than I am. Those are the grasshoppers that we kind of want to talk to in this edition. We think this will probably be a regular feature. But Grasshopper Corner, you're going to talk about why are we talking to grasshoppers instead of the entire universe of roofers?
Well, they're in the I'd say the worst position to be taken advantage of and to make mistakes. They have gone through less of the school of hard knocks. They're early on in their journey and eager to be successful, so they're more susceptible to those magic systems that people sell, or
You're saying magic, quote unquote.
yeah, when
magic
people will say,
system.
"Follow my system," and everything you'll be a millionaire.
Overnight success.
You'll be an overnight success.
Yeah.
We got a lot of those out there, and unfortunately, a lot of newer roofers, contractors in general, when you're trying to figure out how to spend money on marketing and just day-to-day operations, and you go and you get convinced to spend money on consulting, that's a big chunk of money. So and I'll just tell you that is the riskiest way to spend money, because I just say that for every one that's legit, there's probably 10 that aren't. So
I just feel like we have to confess right here. We've been in business 36 years. You've been in the business 26 years. In those 26 years, I'm going to give a low number. We have probably thrown money at least 24 magic gurus that didn't pan out.
Yeah.
That actually left us in worse shape than we started out.
Sure.
So you want to keep your optimism, but at the same time, you kind of have to be a snake and a dove, right? You have to be really shrewd and a little bit suspicious, but you have to be open.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, when you're trying, that's not to say that you can't find a shortcut anywhere. I mean, that's why I got people that go before you. They've paid the school of hard knocks. They've learned certain ways to do things. But the thing with especially roofing, every single city's different. Every market is different. There's not generally a one-size-fits-all way to succeed across the industry. So if you've got somebody that's selling that, you've got to really approach that with some skepticism and some vetting. And I'd also say, if you're going to hire a consultant or a guru, make sure that they've been through it a little bit, that they didn't just get lucky with a 3-inch hailstorm. That you get a 3-inch hailstorm and you have a roofing company, you should have a really good year. But it's the people that have been able to have a good year or stay consistent year after year without those, massive weather events. If this is something, that you're wanting to do long term and not just a quick run at insurance, you want to find a consultant that's actually, or a guru. I hate to use that word guru, but that's basically what they are now. You want to find one that's actually been time tested a bit. I swear I see, and it happens with marketing too. I mean, as roofers are trying to make the switch from door-to-door sales to more marketing-driven operations, they have to blow a lot of money on marketing that doesn't work. So it's the same with marketing and gurus.
If you had to guess, what is it about the roofing industry in particular that's so tempting to guys who have 1 or 2 years of success that they want to turn around and be the guru of the industry? Why is that so common?
I honestly have no idea.
Let's kick that around and figure it out.
No, I really, well, maybe I have no idea other than to say maybe they realize, hey, I need to parlay this into something else.
The clock is ticking on this gig, on this hustle, and I got to do something else.
I got to turn this into something else. That could be one way.
I got to tell you, I was at a convention here about 5 or 6 years ago. It was before you really got into marketing, and I met a guy. He had one of those little booths set up, and he just was so persuasive, as they all are. And he says, "You want to meet me later, and we'll talk more." And I met him later, and in the course of that conversation,
I remember this.
I was ready to sign up, and then he said something about I used to play professional baseball, and I can't remember exactly how it went. And I go, "Tell me your name again." And he goes, "Well, I played baseball under a different name." And I walked out of there going, "Why in the world would you need an alias to be a roofing guru?"
How many years ago was that? It's like
Probably 10, because
10 years
things
ago.
go faster than you think.
Yeah.
But that was just one example.
Yeah, well, that back then there was still only one or two roofing conferences a year. Now there's one every other weekend.
Right.
So our industry's moving really fast. There's a lot of stuff getting thrown at you. So just as a new roofer, I'd say the bottom line of this section or this grasshopper corner is that you want to be wary and careful of anything that's sold to you or promised as a shortcut. There are you can pay some people that know what they're doing to help guide you to success, but they're not going to turn you into an overnight success,
Right.
Unless you couple their guidance with the same luck that they had, which is a hailstorm or whatever it is.
Yeah, but then you're just buying a lottery ticket.
Yeah,
You mean,
exactly.
You might win, you might win, might not. Okay, so that's from an external. That's what to do as far as hiring people on the outside or where you get your mentoring. But from the inside, and I think we discussed this a little bit yesterday, the number one thing is, and I want you to expand on this, is start with this really novel idea, and that is know a little bit about roofing.
Oh yeah, it's funny because I said that there's for every legit guru out there, there's 9 or 10 that really don't know what they're talking about. I actually saw a clip from one the other day, and I thought, man, it was one where I actually agreed with what he was saying. And he said the biggest problem in the roofing industry today is that roofers don't know anything about roofing. And that's spot on. I mean, that's part of why the training system that I developed, starting 14 months ago, is really focused on making sure these guys know roofing inside and out, because we don't want to send somebody out to your house that doesn't know anything about roofing. We want to send an expert, and I think that happens a lot, definitely a lot in roofing. But that is a big, So I'd say one small way you can start if you're trying to be a long-term success. Make sure that you're always hungry for knowledge. You know the basics, and you actually know what you're selling, not just how to read an insurance summary and hire a subcontractor.
So I'd like to take a minute and encourage both types of guys that may have heard that comment. Know the roofing business. If you're a guy who's sitting there and you got asphalt under your fingernails and your hands are calloused and you feel like, man, I know roofing, I'm just not a businessman. You're a guy who doesn't have to worry near as much as the guy who has never done anything having to do with roofing and answered a door knocking ad. Now, the door knocking guys, there's a lot of ways you can get up to speed in a hurry. All the manufacturers have training. If you're willing, you can roll up your sleeves and get out there and be part of a crew for a while, but you got to know.
The guy that you're talking about, though, the ones that actually have nails in their change jar at home, that have tar under their fingernails, the reason why they don't have to worry is because they've actually got they have a trade. They have a skilled
They can do
trade.
it. They can turn their hands into money.
Yeah,
But if
exactly.
they
No
wanna
matter
get beyond
what,
that,
they're always going to be able to rely on themselves.
Yeah.
If you're in this business and you don't have that or that basic knowledge, you don't necessarily have that. So, you really gotta figure out how to become at least more knowledgeable than the majority of the competition, which I'll just say is not that difficult if that's where you want to start.
There again, though, I think that's geography sensitive.
Yeah,
there's
very
some places
geography sensitive.
like-
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
All right, you want to move on to one quick way to make the world a better place.
This is it. When you hear one quick way to improve the world, we are coming in for a landing. So, I think it's my turn.
It's your turn.
I would say, and these are always things you can do quick, okay? Like recycle.
You
And
can
need-
start.
you
You
can
can
throw-
start in 2 seconds.
I would say take an interest in other people's interests.
Absolutely. And the basic way you can do that, it's just a simple way. Ask questions that don't have a yes or no answer.
What'd you do this weekend?
Yeah, that's.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yeah.
Yes or no?
And I mean, from a leadership position, if you're in a leadership role, being interested in other people's interests, that will get you a lot of mileage in terms of actual loyalty and people that know you actually care about their well-being.
That reminds me, and I'm going to ask you the same question, but you have a little time to prepare. What's something that you didn't think you were interested in, but when the person started sharing, you found out that's really cool? And I'll give you my latest example. Kathy and I were in Switzerland a couple years ago. There's been other examples since, but this one really made an impression on me. And most of the people, these groups come together. People just look on the internet and they want to go, and it's called Go Ahead Tours, and you just sign up, and then you get put with these 20 people when you get there. And, you know, it's kind of like a little high school class.
Yeah.
And you become big pals by the end of the year. And one of our executive producers, I send the stuff overseas, and she makes this little yearbook, and we hand it out on the last day, and everybody stays connected forever. But one of the guys there is funny. He was from Philadelphia, but his name was Emery. And he was kind of an oddball. And the first day or two, you know, he was kind of off to himself, and he was kind of isolating, but he seemed like nice, and he seemed friendly. And he mentioned that he was into stamp collecting. And I thought, wow, nerd hobby of the century.
Pogs.
But I said,
Pogs.
Pogs, stamp collecting.
Yeah.
But we were on a bus ride going from one village to the next, and I ended up across the aisle, and I said, tell me about stamp collecting. I thought it was going to be something really lame. And his eyes just lit up, and he started talking about stamp collecting and all the famous stamps that he had, and how he teaches a course up in the Northeast. And I mean, he turned out to be the celebrity of the entire group for the entire week, because it wasn't just that he had passion for stamp collecting, he had passion for everything.
Yeah.
And when I look at my photos from that trip, I always, when I see Emery, but it started out with being interested in his interests. So
Yeah.
what do you
No,
think
I'd say,
of-
I mean, I've got a couple of, you know, guys that I work with, guys on the sales team, and just in talking to them, I've found out one of them used to be in a band, was in a heavy metal band years ago, still plays.
Would I be able to tell which one it was by looking at him?
No, not by looking
None
at
of them look like heavy metal
None of
guys.
them look that way. If you knew their temperaments, you probably you probably could guess which one it is.
Okay, I'm not going to try.
And
on
then
air. Don't wanna-
we've got another one who's into dancing as well as videography. And is from Poland and hasn't been. He made his first trip back to Poland shortly after, maybe 6 months to a year after getting this job. So, just finding out their, you know, more things about, you know, their story. I find that interesting. Other than just saying, hey, you know, what's
How you doing? How's it going?
How are the leads this week?
Yeah.
What do you got in your pipeline? I mean, I'm going to ask that stuff too, but you know, I also want to know what makes them tick as well. So,
You know, there's a story in one of those, I think it was a Dale Carnegie book, but he talks about this guy that he goes to a party, and and he says on the way home to his wife, he says, I must not have said more than 10 words all night.
yeah.
And a couple days later, his wife comes up to him and goes, man, everybody at the party said you're the greatest conversationalist they ever met.
Yeah.
Because he
It's funny you say that, because I was going to share this video with the sales team, and I've seen a couple different versions of it. And one guy calls it the 80-20 rule. The video I saw the other day, basically, you know, it has text overlay as the guy's talking. And it said, the words that got me, that made me click on it and listen, was, an introvert will outsell you all the time. And so I was like,
I wish I'd have thought of that.
That's
That's a
interesting.
good one.
And then so I clicked on it, and I mean, everything he said made sense, which is basically a lot of people, it's not that you have to be shy to be a good salesman. In fact, that might work against you, but you have to know, you have to ask questions. You do a lot of questions. You ask questions, and then you listen to the people. So at 20% asking and selling, 80% listening.
Okay, so you and I, our company right now, I think is in the minority, but I think we're gaining ground. You know, the guru wisdom of sales is sell on offense.
Yeah.
You got to have control of that situation from the time you walk in the door till the time you walk out with a signed contract. And we never bought into that.
Yeah,
and
and I
really
mean-
radically departed from it here
Yeah.
when you took over.
Yeah, we radically departed from it because that was never how I did it, and
Never how I did it.
And I sold for years, and I mean, I'm not going to say what my best sales year was, but let's just say
I can say he's in the Hall of Fame of accent roofing salespeople.
Yeah, so
At the top of the list.
yeah, so I mean, I didn't get that way by taking control of this. I mean, it's not to say when I go in there, I'm not gonna, you know, be the expert and guide people, but no arm twisting. You don't have to trick anybody. Really, what you got to do is go in there as an expert. let them know what the best options they have available to them are, and then you help guide them to the one that you think is best. And sometimes they've got more than one option, and one is better than the other, but they can go either direction. You got to find out, okay, what's their budget? When are they selling the house? And it'll help you line their options up with what's best for them. So,
And not that you're an introvert, but then again, the introvert
Also-
outsells the extrovert. every
yeah,
time.
well, and also knowing when to stop talking. You don't want to just keep talking and saying, we're the best, we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. Honestly, when I'm training guys, I tell them, don't say we're the best. You say,
How do we know? How would we even know such a thing?
yeah, well, you say when you're going through, and our presentation, what you say is, we don't say we're the best, but all these awards you see here and these reviews is other people saying it for us. So that's about as far as we go with that. I mean, but really knowing roofing and being there to consult them rather than to sell them, people appreciate it. And you might not get as many one-call closes, and people that are not in the sales world, the one-call close means you go there and you sell something on the spot. We think we get a lot of one-call closes that you don't leave with a signature, but they've already made up their mind.
Yeah, they're closed. They just don't let you know about it.
I had one last a week ago when I was training where we did the presentation, went over everything, and we were in the car going over notes and what they needed to do next, and we were about to pull out, and he came out and said, "Hey, we're ready to go." So I mean, you're not going to get as many one-call closes, but you're not going to have cancellations like you do if you have that other take charge, arm twisting approach. And our cancellation rate is slim to none, and that's because people feel good about what they're buying.
Because they really feel like they're the ones making the decision.
Yeah, and all that goes back to being interested in other people's
Okay,
interests.
so let's end the show with me asking you. I want to be interested in something that interests you. Phillip, tell me anything you're looking forward to.
Man, I've got a really great opportunity coming up. I think it's early October. Well, I got a couple things. I got the Georgia-Alabama game, which I got tickets for.
Woo! How'd you do that? You know people?
I know people. Let's just say that. And then we actually got a company Braves game, which is
September
coming up.
23rd. That's on my calendar. I
Next
was invited
Tuesday.
to that one.
Whole company and their spouse are coming to that, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
The big one on the horizon, and I think it's in Hilton Head, maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I got to look to see where it's at. But basically, GAF, which is who we partner with, and that's who we buy the majority of our material from. We have their highest level of certification and honor, which is President's Club 3-star. You can't get any higher than that. They won't tell you exactly how many there is, but it's 100 or less, basically. That's
In the country?
In the country. And so I think that's basically what I've been told several times. And so only those guys get invited to this once a year event, and you go down there, and it's not all business. I think there's some meetings and some networking and collaboration, but you get to take a guest and get to collaborate with some of the best in the business and get to know people and make connections.
Yeah,
So
those would be some pretty fertile brains to pick.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to follow your rule, which is in those situations to listen. And roofers have a tendency to talk a lot, and you can learn a lot by going into a room and just listening.
Well,
to
but
what
I've
other guys got to say.
also always said this: if you put me in a room of roofers,
that are successful.
well, just put me in a room full of roofers, and it's really hard to stay. But put me in a room full of successful roofers.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
And you can't find more interesting guys and wives.
Yeah, long-term
on
successful roofers tend to be really what we call HQHBs, high-quality human beings. So
I got to tell you real quick. So once upon a time, in the early days of the company, I had occasion to play golf with three guys that were where I am now. They were emeritus. They were stepping away, but they had built successful businesses, and there was four of us out on the golf course, and this was in the beeper days. My beeper kept going off.
Yeah.
And I noticed, after a while, none of these guys have their beeper going off. We got to the end, and I asked one of them, "How come your beeper didn't go off?" He says, "Never take electronics on the golf course with you."
Yeah.
And I've started following that rule because it'll cost you about 2 or 3 strokes per side, and it
Speaking of
annoys
that-
everybody else.
Speaking of that, I took my new clubs for a test drive yesterday.
Yeah.
That I need a little practice.
Okay, let me
but-
just say this about golf.
but I
Unlike
enjoyed
other
it.
sports, it doesn't depend on athletic ability. It's kind of like roofing. It's really hard to be a completely self-taught great golfer. So you need to get some instruction. I can help you with that. But good, I'm glad you got out
Yeah,
there.
it was enjoyable.
Piece of advice for the entire world: carry your sticks in the trunk. You might not have time for a round of golf, but you always have time to sneak off.
Mine
for
are in the
30
back
minutes
seat of the
up to me.
truck.
There you go. Stop on your way home. All right. Well, I guess that is about it.
That
We're going
is
to
it.
continue to
Yeah.
take it up a little bit. Next time we'll be discussing the whole world. But for now, what's the send-off? The Leaksmith?
This is the Leaksmith podcast, and we were roofing when roofing
We
wasn't
were
cool.
roofing when roofing wasn't cool. Thanks so much for watching.
Thanks.
Pass the word.